You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Hello there and welcome to Force 13 Live. Cyclone Freddy making its closest pass to Mauritius this afternoon local time. It's 2 PM in Mauritius, currently 10 AM here at Force 13 HQ. Cyclone Freddy with winds still estimated at 150 miles per hour, that's 240 kilometers per hour sustained. And a central pressure estimate of 935 millibars. You can quite clearly see it on the satellite imagery and just how close it is to reaching Mauritius there. It's around about, in fact I've forgotten, I think it was about 160 kilometers away. So it's a bit close for comfort. The main hurricane force winds of the storm are most likely still offshore, and indeed probably not many parts of Mauritius are getting tropical storm force winds right now either. Although it certainly is getting blustery in quite a few locations. I had a webcam or two up earlier. One of them's just stopped working for me, but I can show you one or two others in a moment. So we've got a lot to talk about as this storm continues to barrel along towards the west-southwest as it heads towards eventually making landfall in Madagascar tomorrow afternoon or evening. It could still be a category 4 by the time it does make landfall there, and then it's expected to continue westwards and northwestwards and impact Mozambique, where we are looking at potentially a big rain threat. Curiously, this storm isn't going to be a massive rain threat for the Mascarene Islands. We're only expecting about 50 millimeters maximum in parts of La Réunion, and in Mauritius we're only expecting about 20 millimeters of rain, or 30 in the northern part of the country. My name is Nathan Foy, and to join me at this time is some of our correspondents. Right now we have Declan, and we also have Farhan with us right now. Farhan, you've been monitoring this storm for quite some time, I gather, and I guess you have quite a bit to say about its current progress. It's just gone off its category 5 peak that it had yesterday, but it is still blowing up decent amounts of cloud tops on all sides right now. What's your take on it?
It's just really there's no other words to describe this storm, Cyclone Freddy, other than absolutely remarkable. This storm started its life all the way near the island of Sumba, Indonesia, and it's now have traveled more than halfway across the Indian Ocean, maintaining a very strong category throughout most of that. And in through current projection, is expected to make it all the way back, all the way into Mozambique, still as a tropical cyclone, which is certainly going to be one of, if not one of the longest travel tropical cyclone ever, because it essentially went from one end of the Indian Ocean to the other. And it is now entering an important stage. It is making the closest pass to the Mascarene Island, which, although there's going to be some effects, it's probably gonna be nothing compared to what Madagascar is currently preparing for.
Certainly is, and it's moving quite quickly as well, and that's one of the main reasons why we're not looking at massive rainfall accumulations at the moment. But once it does get to Madagascar and beyond, it will slow down a bit, won't it?
Yeah, well, it certainly seems so at the moment. I'm not exactly the most knowledgeable when it comes to uh, movements and things like that. I am not a cyclone
Sorry.
analyst of Force 13. However, it does seem like the movements have been quite consistent with projections as far as I'm aware, and it doesn't seem like that's going to change anytime soon.
Here's the view at Grand Bay right now. The other one that you saw just before was at Point de Flac. And this is the view here. You can see it is quite breezy and blustery, and this actually is. I've just it's just occurred to me that it is the same webcam that we were looking at last night. It looks quite different in the daytime, and you can see the trees blowing about and visibility down a little bit, but still you can see quite a lot. And I would suggest that certainly breezy there. Winds probably up to maybe 25-30 miles per hour at this location. I doubt they're getting tropical storm force winds. The storm is making its closest pass, and in a moment we'll get radar imagery. There's Farhan again, hello, and satellite imagery of the storm there. You can see it continuing southwestwards, and very close to making its closest pass to Mauritius at about 160 kilometers. Get your comments and questions in. Start your message with Force 13 all in text, and we'll be able to take all of your comments and observations. If you are in Mauritius and in the area, let us know how things are at your place right now, as long as it's safe to do so. Start your message with Force 13. I'm just going to grab, got to find it again, the Mauritius radar, which will show things hopefully quite clearly. Yes, take a look at this. Here is a view of the cyclone right now on radar, and that is quite clear to see there exactly what's going on. And let's just zoom into the Mauritius region, and that's a little bit too close actually, if you ask me. So I guess we'll just go back out again, but you'll see just north of Mauritius there is a significant band of rain there. Just wondering if that is going to strike there in a moment. Well, here's a loop, quite a long loop from 9 o'clock this morning, and it's quite a slow loop as well. I can't change the speed of it, but you can see how the storm has progressed since 9 o'clock this morning and how it's occurring there. The eye quite clearly visible, quite a lot of bands on the sides of it as well. Looks like there's two distinct areas ahead of the eye of the storm, but the eye wall there looks quite severe. The radar won't pick it up completely, and the band, the outermost band there, throwing up quite a lot of showers, just about to reach Mauritius there. So things look like they're going to get quite interesting shortly. Yeah. And just watching there to the latest image. That was the latest one, 151. So it looks like that significant band will get very close to striking Mauritius. But it looks like it might have just been trying to escape. Farhan, I think you've got something for us?
A couple of
Oh, another
things.
view.
First off, this is a webcam from Le Monet Lagoon, which is actually near the southern tip of Mauritius. So not the most helpful view, but even here in the far side of the island, we could see that conditions is a bit gusty, the water is a bit choppy. It's clear that the storm is having quite an effect. And then the second thing I want to, oh, nope, not that. The second thing I want to show you is this video from a resort from the East Coast. This is a bit more to the northeast. One of the resort goer have filmed this.
Yep.
Now, other than the expected wind and water, I want to watch here because near the end, the water gets quite, yes, you can see now, quite a bit of, well, I'm not sure you could call it a storm surge, but the storm is certainly going a bit higher than what it usually would be at normal tide.
I'll call it a storm surge. Yeah, I mean, and that is why you should be off the beaches roundabout now, because you know those surging waters can take you by surprise, and especially moving at that speed, it probably only takes less than a foot of water to sweep people off their feet there. But there we go. Let's see if we can take some comments and questions then as we look back at some satellite imagery of the storm. Let's try and get another view. In fact, oh no, we can't do that. Well, we'll take a look at the NHC enhancement in just a moment. But whilst we wait for that, let's get some of your reactions. Let's see. Alf Pie Productions says, does Freddy have a chance to expand its size even further? Well, how big is it right now, Fine? Do we know? Let me just check what the authorities are currently saying, or at least the JTWC.
That's exactly what I was about to do. The GTWC.
So they are, and it's quite an old update actually, but they were saying that the storm force winds extend out about 125, 130 kilometers, pushing 140 maybe actually. So it is very close to reaching the island, and hurricane equivalent winds extend out approximately, that being kilometers, maybe about 65 to 70 kilometers. So Mauritius won't be affected by the strongest winds, that's quite clear. And there is the JTWC map from earlier. That was the 3Z update, which is a good 7 hours ago now. And in case you were wondering, the track projections have shifted quite a bit south since yesterday. Yesterday we were looking at Toa Messina having about a 60% chance of tropical storm conditions, and that's down to about 5% today, because as you can see the track has shifted well south of Toa Messina and the capital, Antananarivo, and is headed towards a sparsely populated part of southern Madagascar. Now at the moment it looks like landfall zone is probably going to be near Mananjari. If you remember me saying yesterday it was going to be closer to Mahanoro, and then after that it will head on towards Mozambique, and that part of the track forecast has shifted as well southwards. So it was closer to Quelimane yesterday, and it's now more towards Beira, but a little bit south of there actually. So that is even putting in Inhambane, if I said that correctly, probably not, to possible tropical storm conditions. So that's a little reflection on the forecast there. Let's see. Geese Gaming says, due to the amount of convection blowing up, will it maybe maintain or strengthen a little more? It's hard to tell what it's doing right now. The eye has gotten shallower, but the cloud tops have blown up quite a bit around it. Let's just get another viewpoint. I'm going to go to the slider imagery and show us, I think the... No, I don't want that one. Ah, this one. Just a moment. This viewpoint here, there we go. So you can clearly see the outlines of the islands. For some reason they're quite blurry, but you can quite clearly see the storm itself. And just waiting for the images to build in. There it is. So as you can see, it's gotten a lot more ragged. The eye is shallower, it's shrinking, it's shriveling up a little bit, it's less symmetric, way less symmetric, and still getting a few pockets of minus 80 degree cloud tops there in the yellows. But in general, it's clearly weakened quite a bit. 150 miles per hour might be a bit generous. And I'm not sure what's next. If it keeps going like that, there might be a break somewhere, and it might end up forcing into an eye wall replacement cycle, which will throw away a lot more energy. Although the storm will grow larger, it is quite a small storm at the moment. Or maybe it will bounce back again, like it has done so many times. Sea surface temperatures in the area around 27 degrees Celsius. So there is still a narrow chance that the storm might build back again and re-strengthen once again, but I wouldn't expect that. What do you think, guys?
Nah.
Well, there we go. Nah. But if you're just joining us, this is Force 13 Live coverage on Cyclone Freddy, which is making its closest pass to Mauritius, as you can see on this imagery. Let's go back to the weather radar to show you just what's happening on the ground. And you can see there that band of rain very close to Mauritius there, and probably just about grazing the northern tip of the island. Let's go back to one of those webcams. Grand Bay, most likely to see it. That band of rainfall, but there's not much happening there yet. Here's the live view, and as you can see, things looking not quiet but breezy, but we're not seeing, visibility's not down, so it's quite clear that there's not a massive amount of rain there. Otherwise you wouldn't be able to see much. But yeah, there's the live view. No, it looks, the water there looks a bit calm. I'm not sure with the exact geography there whether it's a bit sheltered. But there we go. That's the view at Grand Bay. Let's see if we can get some more views. Well, first of all, we'll just go back to the other one that we had lined up from EarthCam. Oh, look, it's an ad. Excellent. We'll come back to that one then. But once again, the view there from Grand Bay, and we'll get the other one up in just a moment. I'm just working on that. Of course, peaked as a Category 5 yesterday, and I think everyone can agree it was good value for that Category 5 status, guys. It was fighting to get to Category 5 on so many different occasions during its life across the Indian Ocean. But it finally reached Category 5 status conclusively, you would say.
Well, in the mind of certain enthusiasts who only look at the category and intensity and nothing else, it certainly made it into how should I put this nicely? Acceptance as a strong storm. I don't know. I don't particularly subscribe to that thought, but well, yeah, it has conclusively reached that, and although that is certainly the cherry on top of its achievement, should I say, I think the bigger thing that should be noted is the fact that it has pretty much been consistent in this intensity and really appearance ever since before it left the Australian region, ever since before it crossed 90° east, and the fact that it has maintained it for that long, and probably going to maintain for just a little bit longer until probably just before landfall in Madagascar is remarkable, because the previous two storms that managed to do this long trek across the Indian Ocean, Leon Aline and Huda, both in 2000, they didn't really get going in the open ocean. In fact, both really only get going into its peak intensity in the Mozambique Channel. So that's really a big distinction between those two storms and this one. Will Freddy do the same as those two in the Mozambique Channel? We don't know. Wind projection says no, but we will know when it emerges into the Mosaic chamber in about 1 to 2 days.
Well, Hudao was quite a strong landfall for Madagascar, though. But I take the point. Here's another view. Now, Grand Bay, I just got reacquainted with the geography. Yeah, that is quite a sheltered location. Very strategically placed, that town. But this is nearby at Pointe aux Canonnières, which is nearby on a much more exposed area, and you can quite clearly see the difference in conditions. A lot more wind there and quite shaky waters as well. So those are the live conditions on the northern side of the island, which is currently experiencing near tropical storm force winds and at times possibly strong heavy rainfall, as we saw on that radar view. Farhan, you're still screen sharing. Have you got something else?
Yeah, you mentioned
Okay.
earlier about it being best to not go near the shoreline. Well, this person clearly hasn't done that, as
Uh-oh.
if I can turn back. This person is pretty much by the shoreline, and as the video goes on and one of the surges come in, you could see just how dangerous it is to stay so close to the shoreline in this kind of conditions. Here it comes. Just short of reaching the camera person, but really, regardless of whether it's going to hit you or not, you should get away from area near the shoreline at all costs.
Interesting. I'm just gonna go.
Like one, like one big wave hits
Yeah.
you, go into the ocean.
Here's another viewpoint now at Belmer, which is on the east coast, further down the coast a little bit. Trying to find out exactly where that is on the map, but I'm sure people who are familiar with the area will know. But it is along the east coast of Mauritius there, and that's what the view looks like. Quite hard to see much going on there, though.
The wind is clearly a whole lot stronger here.
Read.
And then Point de Flac, which is further south, or somewhere near that area actually, I think. Once again, the live view there. Just gonna see if there's any other locations that look interesting right now. But I think we've shown you most of the interesting ones right now, so you know, there's not a huge amount to say with when we're in the Indian Ocean, there's a lot less things that we can grab in terms of visual imagery and observations. But let me just take a look back at the because the Mauritius website will have latest observations as well. So let me just go and check what they've got so far. See if they've captured any significant winds and rainfall. Well, I can tell you that rainfall in the last 24 hours, is that in millimeters? Very small numbers if it is. The highest value there I see is 15.1, and I assume that must be in millimeters, but I'm not sure. 15.2 actually, quite inland. But anyway, the current wind, or the maximum wind that we've received so far, yeah, that rainfall was in millimeters by the way, The maximum wind so far has been 59 kilometers per hour, and that was seen in Vacoas, south of Port Louis. We've also seen 58 kilometers per hour at Grand Bassin and at Champ de Mars, and 54 kilometers per hour at Domaine Le Pale, and that's not far from the Port Louis area, as well as Champ de Mars, of course. So that's the highest winds we've seen so far. So that's not tropical storm force. That is just short of it. Tropical storm gale force winds start about 65 kilometers per hour. But so far we've not really seen much of that. Further north, where you might expect stronger winds, only 43 kilometers per hour at Mont-Loisir-Rouillard. These pronunciations might be horribly wrong. But there we go.
Well, it's French. It's French.
Yeah. But from what we were seeing at Belmer, that webcam that we had there, the wind's right now 40 kilometers per hour at that location. There are a few places as well that we're not getting reports just at the moment, but I doubt they will be significant. Now, did I turn that radar off? Lost it. Oh no, it's on my other tab. But in any case, let's get some more comments and questions, because that's probably the best thing to go for right now. And we had lots, well, we had a couple earlier, but start your message with Force 13 all in text and it will light up for us and we'll be able to take a look at all of your thoughts. Tyler Shary says, what is a peak so far, and do you think it will go up to the peak or go and even pass at the peak? I'm not really sure what that meant, but if you mean in terms of its peak intensity during its whole life, then it's just past that. If you mean peak conditions in Mauritius, I would expect that that is probably going to be happening this hour or next hour, because the storm is literally making its closest pass right now. And let's take a look here. Will Freddy cause hurricane force winds on Mozambique? And that is still a possibility, although it is we can't say it's likely at this moment. In a moment we'll show you rainfall expectations of the storm as well on our models. And Nico says, has the speed decreased? Any signs of accumulation? So inside the storm, winds have decreased a little bit to 150 miles per hour. That's still very strong, 240 kilometers per hour sustained winds there. But it is 160 kilometers from Mauritius, so in a storm that's quite small like this one, that is a big deal. And as we've seen so far, the maximum winds that we've seen recorded 59. Oh look, there's another ad. Kilometers per hour. Oh look, there's everyone in the YouTube chat over there. Well, actually you can't see that, that's on the right hand side, but that's where I take a look at everyone chatting. There's Farhan looking very concentrated. Sorry I had to throw that on. And there once again is the radar, which is where I was trying to go, of Cyclone Freddy. Yeah.
I've just been trying to peruse the local news website because they are quite scant in terms of online publication in this part of the world, unlike, say, the Philippines or the US, when there's hundreds upon hundreds. There in this part of the world there's scans, but I've managed to find a few, and one here from Madagascar. It says here that the authorities have been stocking essential supplies such as rice, sugar, and fuel for a week in the expected landfall area. They have highlighted the need to be prepared ahead of time. The people they are interviewed here highlight how unprepared they were during Batsirai last year, and so they don't want to repeat that. They have been making preparations for the storms, and they are expecting the local governors of the area in which the storm is expected to be making the most impact in to exercise maximum vigilance in dealing with the storm, which is a good thing. But of course, what is said in a media piece is different, could possibly be widely different from what's happening on the ground. And that's not something we will see until at least a few days after the storm has passed, unfortunately.
We have a crazy dog in the background here at Full City in HQ. That's not my responsibility. Anyway, let's just get. Actually, something I've not shown you so far is some beautiful visible imagery of the cyclone. So let me just go and grab that, and I'll be with that in just a moment. Sandwich imagery actually in this area. Let's first show that on the animation, and you'll be able to see that. There it is. So there is an image there. Just going to try and get that animated, and you'll see that in a moment. Right, so here it comes, just as it's just building them all in. And there we go. More of a view there in more frequent images than what the other ones I've been showing you are. Those were hourly time steps, and this one is 30-minute time steps. And there's the storm's progress, gradually west-southwestwards, and maybe, no, maybe not a slight curve to the west actually, but that's been the general progress of the storm throughout the course of today, and you can see just how close it's gotten to Mauritius there as it's been moving along.
The eye has shrink there.
Yes. Let's go back. How do we stop this? Let's go back to standard visible imagery, because that's cool to see as well. There it is. Wait a minute, there it is. So that's a visible image of the storm. You can. It is still looking very picturesque on that imagery in particular, and we're just going to get an animation loaded of that one as well. There it is. Those frames just building in. And that's been the general story of Cyclone Freddy today. It's gone slightly off its Category 5 peak that it achieved last night. And there it is, still a strong Category 4 storm, but quite small. I mean, look at that. It's passed literally in between St. Brandon and Mauritius without really giving either of them hurricane force winds at least. But for Mauritius there, potentially tropical storm force winds, and it really is making its closest approach right now. That's once again there, that's the latest frame, and you can see again very, very close to just making its closest pass there. It's probably going to get just a couple of kilometers closer, and then it will start to move away again. And then it will be the turn of La Réunion down there as well, although their conditions probably won't be so bad. Interesting thing is, you can see Mauritius there. Once the storm does pass, it will clear up quite quickly. I mean, it must only be about maybe 3 hours until we get clearer skies in that area. So it is passing by very quickly. Let's throw it back to that webcam once again at Point de Flac whilst we load up some other stuff here and take any questions. Alpha Kids said strong gusts of at least 100 kilometers per hour at Bay de Tombeau northwest. And Vishwanath says Mauritius meteorological services haven't updated their data yet. Ah, okay then. Well, fair enough. Actual winds are higher. Do we think that the cyclone on a GFS model couldn't hit the southeast corner of Queensland? I know it's very long range, so that's another cyclone that we're talking about there.
Long range.
We will show you that a little bit later on, but you were talking about that from the Tropical Weather Bulletin earlier. Let's throw to some models. The GFS model, and this is the rainfall chart. You can quite clearly see the track of the storm there, and where it goes, and how much rain accumulates in the next 7 days. So, the track of the storm goes that way, through here, and then into Africa. And the rainfall expectations there, you can see, obviously it's a little bit out of date because the storm's already here now. But in Mauritius, you're looking at maximums there of about 1.5 inches. That's about 30-40 millimeters. In Réunion there, we're looking about maybe 2 inches, maybe slightly more. That's just over 50 millimeters. A large red patch there just before Madagascar, which could end up moving inland a little bit. But generally, we're looking at quite severe numbers, 5-6 inches there, 150 millimeters. And quite a lot, widespread, moderate amounts of rain there along the western regions, up to 2 inches, maybe 3. And then take a look towards, let's turn that off, take a look towards Mozambique and into Zimbabwe. Some extremely high amounts of rain on the cards now. Look at that there, 16.5 inches. Just trying to triangulate an actual location there. That's probably in Zimbabwe or along the border. So interest in that area, there could be a large amount of rainfall. But even so, general numbers there, all around 9-10 inches, 250 millimeters there as the storm moves inland towards Africa. Let's get the model for the winds right now. I'm just loading that. There it is. So this is at the initialization of that GFS model run, and it has the storm, starts it off at 120 miles per hour, which is obviously much weaker than it actually is. This is the thing with these model runs. Quite often they just that the resolution isn't that good, and they underdo the storm intensity, they undercook it, and then that can affect the rest of the forecast. But from what we've got, and it's a fair idea of the track forecast is quite confident, at least to Madagascar. Well, you'd think it would be by now, but to an extent beyond as well. Just waiting for it all to finish loading, and now let's go through the progression. So slight weakening there, which continues as it passes by La Réunion, and there maybe slight strengthening again before it reaches Madagascar. Landfall actually has trended a little bit later. We're actually looking at late in the night now, on Tuesday night for the Madagascar landfall. So that's interesting. Then it continues overland, weakens a lot, only just down to tropical depression status there as we enter Wednesday afternoon. And then it gathers pace again. Look at that. And off it goes. Tries to get towards hurricane status again by the time it makes landfall in Mozambique near Beira on the 24th, Thursday, at about 8 a.m. So that will, I mean, there's still some wriggle room about that. We could still be looking at landfall. I mean, I doubt it, but if you were to draw a cone for it, a landfall may be closer to Quelimane, up here, or possibly further south, down here. That is still possible, but of course the middle of that takes it pretty much exactly where the storm is, and that's why we have cones, because the storm could still go anywhere within that area. Look at this at the same time, towards the end of that 5-day period. Another tropical cyclone out over the Indian Ocean. Now, don't worry, this will not be affecting any land areas, but just to give you an idea there it is, starts off and shoots on southwards and then turns southwest a little bit actually, but I can tell you it's not going to shoot back up, certainly won't be doing that. It's more likely to do a little turn and then scoot down that way there as it gets picked up by this front from an extratropical cyclone down in the very, very high latitudes. Now, just quickly, we'll look at Australia as well, just to tell you about that other system. It actually doesn't form within the 7 days, so I wouldn't think of anything of it yet, but you are right, towards 10 days, there is potentially a system forming in this area, and also here, there is a potential tropical cyclone that might cause a lot of rainfall over this area, northern Australia. But that's not really what we're covering right now, but I thought I'd give you a little look there.
There has been a bit of a resistance, it seems, toward Australia, considering that it's almost March and there hasn't been any direct storm impact. In fact, when Gabrielle and Freddy was simultaneously active on both ends of Australia, there was a big joke of
Yeah.
an Australian shield because both storms are going away from Australia. Would
Yeah.
that change soon? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see.
I mean, when you look at it, I mean, this is the peak of the season right now, so Australia has been quiet, definitely. Yeah, I mean, overall, to be honest, it's been a little bit quiet in the southern hemisphere. We've now got Soham with us, though, for another perspective, one of our main cyclone analysts. And as I look back at the radar here, it does appear to me as though it's probably just made its closest pass to Mauritius. And let's just go to that last image. Eventually. I thought that was going to send us to the last frame, but I'm just clicking through now. Where's that most recent frame? That one. 151. Oh, it's playing again now. Stop it. There it is. So, yeah, just over 150 kilometers from Mauritius. Soham, your thoughts on the storm this afternoon?
So I looked at the storm earlier today, and it seemed that it was suffering from a touch of an increased shear. But apart from that, it has started recovering again. But I guess we have a radar pass coming in. I've seen talk in the community that there could be an outer eye wall building up, but we'll have to see if that translates into an actual replacement cycle.
Well, have you seen this radar picture? Does this tell you anything?
I can definitely see something, a moat forming, if that helps.
I
But
thought that as well.
yeah,
Interesting.
I think there's a good chance it might go into an eye wall replacement cycle shortly thereafter, but we'll have to see how it translates.
And is that genuinely its first one?
Yep, that is the first one. Microwave passes never indicated any sort of eye wall replacement cycle up to this point.
Man.
Amazing. Amazing, Freddy.
Certainly is. Let's go back to one of the
And
webcams. This is near Grand Bay, and you can see how that tree is moving about a lot. Go ahead.
I actually wanted to point out that Freddy getting an eye wall replacement cycle now is bad for land impacts, because at the last moment getting an eye wall replacement cycle in what is like the final 2 days before landfall now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would only increase the size of the storm, as well as increase the total radius of tropical storm force winds.
Well, then that's not very good for Madagascar. But how do you feel this has gone then track-wise? Is it? I don't suppose it's been a surprise that the storm has spared Mauritius from the very worst parts of it.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all, considering the subtropical ridging is still quite strong. So the storm will keep getting steered more towards the west. and so it's not really a surprise that the storm is missing the islands. In fact, I believe it's actually it's slightly north of forecast in JT2Z.
Yeah, I was wondering that actually. But there it is on the satellite imagery. Let's take a look at some comments. Start your message with Force 13 to direct our attention to you, but some other comments that didn't ping us. Ray says we are at Azuri on the northeast coast. Sea surge was big as it coincided with high tide, and they have footage there as well. So it would be interesting to see that. If there's anywhere that, if you've posted it anywhere and maybe you could share it with us, that would be pretty cool. And they think that the wind there has peaked. It probably has on the east coast. Just looking at anything else as well. Abdel says very little rainfall on the central plateau, and that there's even people walking here and there. I mean, yeah, I imagine things are a little bit calmer over there at this moment in time. Yeah, did you want to say something? Okay. And some nice comments there as well, congratulating us. Well, I mean, we're not certainly not out of the woods yet with tracking this storm by any stretch, but thank you very much for the comments.
I believe I saw some rather drunken model runs from Icon and some other some other things. I have to see if I can find that model run. It was
what
kind
do you mean by that?
I'll have to look into it, but from what I hear, it was pretty ridiculous. I'll see if I can find it.
Jenny says they live in Beaubassin and it's not too bad, just windy and rain. Yeah. In fact, let's just go back to the models again, the GFS, I should say, and just show you what it was indicating earlier on. You can see it here, just a moment. There is the storm at its closest pass to Mauritius, round about now or slightly in the future. In fact, no, this is the forecast for 30 minutes from now, okay? So at 3:15, you can see the outline of Mauritius, which I'll mark out. Quite difficult to see. There's Mauritius, and you can just see that the hurricane force winds there, just touching the coast, the northern coast. 50 knot winds extending round here. That's quite strong winds there. That's around 100 kilometers per hour sustained winds. And then tropical storm force winds around that whole area right down there. So it does imply here that we are going to be seeing strong winds. If you haven't yet, then I imagine it will still be on its way. But well, let's say once we get to here, once we get to this point of the forecast, that's probably when you can say that the worst has definitely passed. And by that point, that's at 6 o'clock there. So I would say stay hunkered down until 6 o'clock, personally, when the worst of the storm will definitely have passed by that point. Meanwhile, at 6 o'clock, La Reunion, there it is. We'll be getting, I drew that terribly, we'll be getting impacted by the storm. That's still a terrible drawing, but okay, we'll run with it. And you'll see there, it doesn't get that bad a deal from it. It looks like the 50 knot winds stay away there by quite a few kilometers, but they'll get tropical storm force winds there. And then the storm starts to move southwesterly a little bit more, and off it goes towards the coast of Madagascar, which will impact there, maybe stronger, another intensification bout. And that will be in the late evening of tomorrow, Tuesday. That's what we're expecting from the GFS model right now.
There has been a... Oh, go ahead, Sue. Sorry.
Yeah, so I was about to point out the latest microwave pass sadly missed for Freddy, so we
Okay.
still have no idea. Thankfully, we have radar to offset this loss of data, so thanks. So that's a good thing.
Farhan.
Uh, there is an update here from 3 News Mauritius on Twitter. They're showing video from apparently a police headquarters where they have been suffering damage. A tree has fallen down and has reportedly damaged 5 cars. No one was in any of them, thankfully. Notice that there isn't much of any rain. The air is not particularly wet.
Oh
And I've
yeah.
seen reports earlier that the area in the center of the island, the central plateau, is not actually getting too much rain, but a lot of wind. Perhaps this police headquarters is in that central plateau, which explain why there's tree coming down, but there's no any kind of wetness at all on the ground. But
Did
yeah,
it say
that's
a
the latest.
location?
No, it just simply says police headquarters. And I'm just inferring that it is in the central plateau because someone says there's report that it's not raining too much there, and clearly it's not exactly raining here either.
Well, we've got our viewers here. Maybe they'll know where that actually is, but that's the scene at that location. Send your messages through to Force13, all in text. Starray wants to know, do we have access to the CHP6's run for Freddy? It would probably take too long for me to dig
Oh
that
boy.
out, but it will be out there somewhere. But I'm not going to go and search for it, even though it might be interesting. It wouldn't add anything to our coverage, I don't think.
CHP6 was always designed to be a worst case scenario model, and it's always supposed to be unrealistic. So it really wouldn't help us here in any way. It's more of a mathematical exercise than a model forecast.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Here's a look back at Grand Bay once again, and it's actually looking quite calm. Yeah, it's not looking so bad there right now. A little bit surprised.
I'm guessing the storm moving more north of forecast has probably avoided it to helped it avoid some of the more severe conditions.
Now, Farhan, the more I look at it on satellite imagery, it's starting to look a little bit stretched to me, if you know what I mean. It looks like the southern arm and the northern arm is being pushed a little bit out of symmetry.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. And I guess it's indication that what Soham earlier said about there being indication of there being an EWRC finally happening, perhaps, but I guess it's a bit premature to say it for certain at this point in time.
To add to that, even though it is a bit premature to say, though there is one red flag I have noticed. That being that the central dense overcast, that is the entire area of convection around the eye, has dramatically increased in size in latest frames. That is one of the telltale early signs of an eyeball replacement cycle.
Ah. And just to reiterate again, an eyewall replacement cycle, it's too late to affect Mauritius, but that would be bad news for Madagascar. Right?
That is correct.
So that's what that would mean right now. Impacts in Mauritius are pretty much locked in. It's making its closest approach to the island right now at about 150 to 160 kilometers. The center of the storm currently is from Mauritius. Back to that radar view that you can take a look at again. Let's just refresh that and see if there's any new images. Oh, there we go. 241. And you can see there, there's a little gap in Mauritius right now from that rain, which never actually got there. You can see that significant band, which had quite a lot of rain in it, never actually got there. But there is another little one there just east of Mauritius, and that will throw a line of rainfall into the east coast there.
It's also worth noting that the reflectivity signature of the outer eyeball has gotten a lot stronger in the latest frame.
So what does that tell us then?
It's a good sign that the outer eye wall is starting to consolidate over the inner eye wall.
Ah, I see. Let's just watch that again here. It's a slow loop. But just look closely and watch the inner eye wall and this potential outer eye wall on the other side. Man, this is a slow loop. Hold on. I'll start clicking it myself. There it comes. I don't... Is that just because it's getting closer to the radar site, or... Oh, hold on. Right at the end there. Yeah, I see what you mean now.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
That's interesting. So, indications maybe that there could be an eye wall replacement cycle on the way. Doesn't mean much for Mauritius, but it could have implications further down the road once we get towards its Madagascar landfall. Give you an idea of its current position right now. It is about 155 kilometers away from Mauritius to the northwest, and it is making its closest approach pretty much right now. Keep sending in your comments and questions. Go ahead.
There is someone that question, now it's gone off screen for now, probably for you, but someone did ask, will there be a class 4 warning in Mauritius? And I think we can say quite a firm no, since that the storm is now making its closest path, and no such warning has been issued currently.
Right.
Yep. What's he saying? Declan, hello? I don't know, but yeah, no, the warning isn't going to get worse than it currently is. And Tyler wants to know about the southeastern corner of Queensland. Do you think the cyclone GFS model could hit that area? I did already mention that one. It's way too far out, but my guess right now would probably be no. Freddy, still a strong Category 4 storm with winds of 150 miles per hour sustained, that's 240 kilometers per hour, and a pressure of around 935 millibars. We're going to take a short break here, gather our thoughts, and we'll be back for another hour of coverage in just a moment. Stay tuned, we'll have the latest after this. Our live coverage will continue in a moment. You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Cyclone Freddy making its closest pass to Mauritius this afternoon. Here is the latest imagery, or webcam, from Point de Flac on the eastern coast, I think it was. Or maybe the western coast, I can't remember now, of Mauritius. But there is the view from this location there at 3 p.m. This has gone well. 3 p.m. on Mauritius right now. Cyclone Freddy has 150 mph winds, that's 240 km/h sustained, and a pressure of 935 millibars. We are live here for another hour as the storm makes its closest pass. My name is Nathan Foy here in the studio, and we are covering the storm live. We're taking your questions, and we'll have any news as it comes in as we continue to monitor the storm and its possible eye wall replacement cycle, which we've been talking about here in the last hour. There it is on satellite imagery, and the eye has been shrinking and getting shallower. The cloud tops around it, the eye wall has been blowing up a little bit more. And from what we were seeing on radar, we're getting indications that an eye wall replacement cycle may be underway. Maybe we'll get a better idea of that during this hour of coverage as we continue to watch these pictures. I was reliably informed last hour that the wind speeds that had been recorded on Mauritius were out of date, and that it was 59 km/h this morning, but it's probably been a lot higher since then, so that makes sense. And with me right now, I'm joined by Soham Chatterjee from India, who is currently with us talking about this storm as well, one of our main cyclone analysts, and it's great to have you with us whilst we cover this cyclone. I don't suppose you've had any further thoughts during the break there on what we're currently seeing with the storm, but general west-southwesterly movement holding on to its intensity. What repercussions would an eye wall replacement cycle have on its intensity moving forward?
The thing about first of all, hello to everyone on this stream, and second of all, what I want to point out is what an eye wall replacement cycle does is that it essentially what happens is that an outer eye wall builds up from the banding that the storm forms around it, and that banding forms and sort of chokes the inner eye wall out of existence.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's a combination of subsidence on the inner eye wall, and that causes the storm's overall overall size to increase, as well as its wind field to broaden. So the storm's overall how far the winds outside the center extend overall increases as a result of the eye wall replacement cycle. So if you if I were to use a physics analogy, it would probably be the conservation of angular momentum, but to keep it short and simple, larger the storm in this case, lower the overall wind speed. So the overall energy of the storm is being redistributed to compensate for the increase in size. This results in a slightly lower wind speed storm at the center of maximum winds, or the RMW, but an overall more dangerous system because of its increased size as well as increased rainfall and storm surge threats.
So in this instance, quite a small storm, an eye wall replacement cycle, how much wind speed do you think it would deduct from its current intensity?
Generally, yeah, it's very difficult to say because we have no models at the moment that can accurately quantify or calculate how much of wind speed penalty that a storm can undergo as a result of an eye wall replacement cycle. In some cases, the wind speed can be minimal, or in some cases, it can utterly destroy the storm's strength because the new eye is way too large to sustain.
And do you think that might happen here?
Unfortunately for everyone involved, that is not going to happen because the conditions, overall environment for the storm is still favorable. So any large eye wall that forms would likely won't be as big as one might expect a more destructive eye wall replacement cycle to be.
Yeah, interesting. We're just looking at a few other satellite views of the storm right now. We just saw some visible there, which really looked very impressive. Here, once again, is one of the infrared channels, the one that's used by RAM. And you can see there it's making its... Well, this imagery is actually a little bit old now. Let's try and get an update. Well, that didn't show any updated imagery. Never mind. But that goes up to 130 there. So let's throw it back to the Mauritius radar, which is probably the most up-to-date source of imagery that we've got anywhere. Because it's pretty much
I
up to
just
the
want
minute.
to add an interesting statistic. Based on the Joint Typhoon Warning Center's best track, this storm has sustained major status for almost 10 days now. So it's currently gearing up for in about an hour it'll complete a grand total of 9 days
Wow.
as a Category 3 and stronger storm.
And regardless of eye wall replacement cycle, it should maintain major status until Madagascar, really.
Yeah, so that's record setting at this point. I believe the accumulated cyclonic energy for the storm has gone past 60 ACE units.
So 60 units of accumulated cyclone energy. That's probably more than some Southwest Indian Ocean seasons, right?
Yeah, and I believe this is the highest. This is the highest generated by a storm since Irma. Now, Irma, that was 5 years back.
Yeah, nearly 6. So the most ACE producing storm since Irma. And when we just to explain ACE, accumulated cyclone energy, basically it's a formula that adds up and makes an accumulation of all of its intensity points every 6 hours, and comes up with the total of just over 60 ACE units now. Remarkable. And that must be what, top 1% of all cyclones there?
I believe it's in the top. Yeah, towards the top, and currently Freddy stands alone in the southern hemisphere.
Oh yeah, it is the most. I'm trying to figure out what you would quantify as most energetic cyclone in the southern hemisphere on record.
I'm pretty sure by that term it will probably be. I think we simply just call it the highest ACE accumulated storm of all time in the southern hemisphere.
All right. Please send in your questions. Start your message with Force 13 all in text, including any observations you might have on the ground right now in Mauritius, as long as it's safe to do so, and it will light up for us. So, we had a comment just then from Storm Dennis, interesting name. Chances of Freddy hitting 70 ACE. Well,
actually, the GTWC forecast has it achieving just that. So
yeah. Well, for every... It's when it gets to 115 miles per hour. That's when it's 1 ACE per 6 hourly point. So if you consider, if it kept an average speed of 115 miles per hour for the next, well, it'd be 10 advisories, wouldn't it? It would get to 70. So 10 times 60 hours.
2.5 days, give or take.
2.5 days. It will be close.
And that's
then you got to add up the rest of
with
it.
the storm being at exactly at 100 knots. So
Yeah.
it's obviously stronger. So
If it averaged 100 knots for that time, though, talking about the bit after Madagascar as well, then it probably will. So, yeah, I think it will get to that 70. That's crazy, man.
I believe this is you don't get to track storms like these very often. This is like the first storm we know of on record in the entire southern hemisphere.
Another comment there from Reunion Island, and the cyclone is supposed to pass the nearest at 10 p.m. tonight, they say. That might be about right. Let's take a look back at some of the cones. First, Meteo France's cone here. And you can see their position as of 10 a.m. Obviously a little while ago now. And they depicted Mauritius already having those winds. I think, did they use a 30 knot wind radial there, or 35 knot? Close enough anyway, I suppose. And then it heads on towards Madagascar. On their forecast, they have the storm passing closest to La Réunion there at 10 p.m.
So I'm
yeah, you're right.
looking at the scale. I'm looking at the scale, and the outermost is 50 kilometers per hour winds.
Right.
The yellow ring.
Okay, yep. So quite clearly getting a lot more than that on Mauritius. They're probably into that red zone. And on the JTWC forecast cone, this was from much earlier. They had Mauritius getting pretty much into 50 knot wind territory. And that's roughly 100 kilometers per hour sustained winds as well. But yeah, that's a decent idea about what we're expected to see. Let's go back to, let's try and take a look at one of the webcams. Where should we go? Oh, we've got actually, okay, this one looks interesting. Here's a live view from Anse-le-Ray, if I said that correctly. I don't know if I did or not. That's on the northeastern coast of Mauritius. Would have been battered by the storm last hour, and in fact this webcam wasn't here. It wasn't available an hour ago, so can only assume that we had a temporary loss for some reason. Power outage maybe, something like that, but it appears to be back. And you can see what it's looking like there. The water blowing in from the right hand side. I assume this is looking out towards the northeast. Although that would be a bit curious if that's actually still occurring at this point. And if we move the camera down a little bit, you can see some of the waves crashing in there on the right hand side over that rocky border and onto that beach area. So, you know, we're not seeing a major surge event, although we may have done last hour. This might be less than what we would have seen an hour ago, or 2 hours, or 3 hours ago, even on the northeastern coast. But that's the current view over there right now. Let's see if we can take another look at what it looks like at Point de Flac. We'll get there in just a moment, because there's an ad playing over there right now, but we'll get onto that. Now, so I was curious to see when I didn't have much time to set up this morning, but looking at the top left-hand panel, model ensembles, there's a small school of thought there that recurves the storm at the last minute. And I don't know what you think about that, if there's any chance of that happening at all. But there is a few models there that are suggesting that it's just going to literally turn around as it strikes Mozambique and then turn back southeastwards.
So this well into this ties into my point that this ties into the point that I was making last stream, actually, where models have this tendency to not model terrain correctly because of their poor resolution. So what this can do is that they can easily underdo or overdo any environmental conditions that the storm may face post emergence from Madagascar. So I've repeatedly emphasized that any forecast post Madagascar is extremely uncertain. So the storm can easily be too weak to keep moving along with the ridge and recurve instead, or the storm can hold on a little stronger as it reorganizes in the Mozambique Channel and keep moving west. Either of the two scenarios can play out. So if I were doing a forecast, I would probably put a large cone of uncertainty post the Madagascar point.
So you're saying a weaker storm is more likely to recurve then?
I'm not sure if it is likely to recur, but it would essentially be more vulnerable to the low level steering currents. That is a bit different from the upper level steering currents, which the storm is currently going with, because the stronger the storm is, the higher the higher it can more feel the more upper level, that is higher in altitude steering currents, and follow that. But if a storm is weaker, it tends to follow the low level, that is the local systems, the direction and the wind currents that the lower areas have, lower latitudes have, low altitude winds have, and be at the mercy of that. So if the storm is completely gutted post Madagascar, there is a chance that it may not follow the subtropical ridge and instead recur.
All right. A lot of reports of thunder that people are talking about right now over various parts of Mauritius. I'm wondering whether there's been any real change to the precipitation to cause that, or whether that's just happened quite spontaneously. Let's have another look at the radar. Any new frames that I can look at there? Yes, there's a lot more precipitation over Mauritius right now. Yeah, one of the bands from the east is moving in. Let's just show you this. Let's get back into position. You can see there right over Mauritius, and in fact, let's just get that zoomed in view again. You can see exactly what's happened here. Look at that, moving in from the east. One little orange pixel there at 251, and then to 301. You can see a few greens hanging about there, so certainly the chance for storms in that zone as this line moves in from the east. And that line, you can see it there continuing to arc around. That's probably going to continue for a fair while, because that's just the beginning of it. So yeah, there could be quite a bit more in terms of thundery showers. I would say that little yellow-orange area, though, that was the worst part of it, and it probably won't get to those heights again in that particular band, but we'll see. Let's see what else we've got right now. Let's see. Kolja says pretty windy at La Golette at the moment, getting stronger every minute, so that's interesting. Another comment there, it started lashing, definitely from what I'm seeing on that imagery. Janet says from the UK at a hotel in the north of Mauritius, supposed to be flying home today. Oh dear. Being told to stay in our room, just seems a bit windy outside, not raining. Just looking out for some more here as well. Thunder on the Central Plateau from Zafar there. Thunder and lightning. Nico says, what are the chances of Freddy doing a hockey stick trajectory once it arrives at Madagascar and heads back to the Mauritius and Reunion? No, that's definitely not going to happen. I don't think that's ever happened. Maybe you could sort of mention Hyacinth in that, but no, that's never going to happen, that one. But it could do a recurvature and pass south of Madagascar and then head right down towards the southeast. That's possible. Danilo wants to know about any news on 99W. That's an area of interest off the coast of the Philippines right now. I've not even managed to check that properly.
Let me see.
It's an orange % chance according to the JT.
Yeah, the JWC marked a moderate chance on that, which I was really surprised to see.
Let me see if I can post an image of it. 1 second.
It doesn't look good on satellite.
No, I'm not that impressed by it either. And most of the rain threat has already left the Philippines now as well.
While the poleward outflow of 99W is kind of impressive, the low level circulation leaves a lot to be desired.
All right then, that'll do me. So to reiterate the latest information right now, Class 3 warning in effect for Mauritius, an orange cyclone warning for Reunion, and we have varying amounts of warnings for parts of Madagascar as well. It's code yellow for some of those areas, which I gather is kind of a cyclone warning, and green, which I gather to be sort of a cyclone watch for large parts of central Madagascar. And you can see the list of locations down at the bottom of your screen every time it scrolls by. Kevin says, very strong wind at the moment at Grand Garb. And Willem says, will it turn to Durban in South Africa? That, I would say, is very unlikely. Zafar says, can Freddy slow down or even stop whilst around Mauritius? On other occasions, we might have said that was possible, but this one is definitely going. Freddy is not in a mood for stopping.
No, the subtropical ridge is way too strong to have the setup for a stalling near it. So it's definitely going to move to the west-southwest.
We have a new batch of images on satellite now from Ram Slido as well. So here's another look at what's been going on here in the last few hours. And it's certainly getting a lot more ragged on that satellite imagery, Soham. Perhaps there...
Yeah, that's a pretty classic appearance of an eye wall replacement cycle.
That's what I thought, yeah. So it's certainly looking as though we might be seeing an eye wall replacement cycle occurring now as the storm continues southwesterly. What was that?
About time.
About time. The first eye wall replacement cycle of this storm's 14-day life so far, with another 5 days possible. Quite impressive.
That's impressive because many of the other storms that were this long tracking, always at least had 2 or 3 eye wall replacement cycles by now.
So look at this imagery. We've got that trailing band of rain that's gradually working its way southwards through Mauritius, after we saw it impacting central parts not long ago. So that's about to reach the south coast, and then after that, if I'm being honest, Mauritius is probably in the clear for rain. They'll still get some strong winds after that, but you know, it's going to end up being in that big gap after this band continues to move through there. So the storm is definitely making its closest approach over these 2 hours that we've been streaming. And I'm not sure when to say that it has made its closest approach. It's certainly doing it right now. 160 kilometers from the eye of a strong Category 4. Now, usually, it does go to show how small this storm is, because they're probably only getting low to moderate tropical storm force winds there. If I mean, we've seen storms like this in the Atlantic that's probably double this size, right? That would probably be close, or if not delivering hurricane force winds at that distance. But there we are, that's the latest radar once again, and we'll keep toing and froing from all of these images. Let's throw it back to the camera at point deflect, which is sort of my my go-to, whilst we take some comments and questions, because I'm pretty sure there's been quite a few more here. Let's see. Some people saying they've got pictures of things as well. I'm not really sure how people can get things through to us, but I suppose if you've done a tweet or a Facebook post about it, you could get it through to us on those platforms, and I guess I'll keep a lookout. But in the meantime, let's take a look at the live imagery here at Point du Flac, which has gotten a little bit blurry. On the left-hand side, must be getting some rain, but you can see it clearly on the right-hand side. Lots of wind there at the moment. Let's see what we've got here. Abdul says very strong winds and thunder at times at Bel Air, Rivière, Seiche. European models showing it hitting Mozambique, then pushing inland and almost reforming over Maputo with crazy amounts of rain. Is that true, so?
You'll have to repeat the question. My connection dipped for a little bit there.
The Euro model, what's it showing?
Let me just double check. I'll get back to you in a minute.
Yeah, okay. Elton says that they're getting really strong winds there, approximately 110 kilometers per hour for sure. That's interesting. Just looking as well. What if Freddy hits South Africa as a category 3 or 2? That won't happen, trust me. That's never happened ever. Abdel says it seems most of the rainfall is in the upper quadrants. As such, Mauritius is not going to get much rainfall. You're right. Northern side is getting more rainfall than the southern side of the storm. Absolutely. And that will continue all the way up until landfall in Madagascar. Joel says strong winds right now in Mauritius, but occasional heavy rain, but not continuous. That sounds about right. And Rick says raining now, southeastern with thunderstorms. And another comment.
Nathan, I'll just post the ensemble models. I think you'll find this very interesting.
I think I will. Another comment. Do we have any on-the-ground pressure obs from any of the islands? I don't know. I'll try and find out.
I've asked around other people. The other people have not. People whom I know who generally keep a close eye on observations have not found any observations so far. And Nathan just checked the live discussion. I posted the ensemble run.
Yeah, I'll be there in just a minute. But first of all, I do want to try and figure out if there are any pressure readings. I'm just looking up one of my sources. Okay, that's running slowly, so I guess we'll go to you first, Soham. Just waiting for everything to load again. Things are running a bit slowly here. Right, so this is the ECMWF ensemble. Now look at that. That is calling for a recurve. I don't know if it intensifies right over the capital Maputo there, as that commenter suggested. It's hard to tell on that image. But it does after it gets back out over the water properly. Wow.
It's very interesting because the storm hits land, then recurves, exits land, comes into water, and then intensifies again, according to some of the ensemble models there.
Oh man,
that is quite an interesting change.
That's one way to extend its life. Dear. Don't do it, Freddy.
If it does that, it's going to shatter a lot more ace records at that point.
I'm not impressed. I'm just looking to see if there's any. No, I can't even find any personal weather stations or anything like that on Mauritius. Yeah. But if anyone does have any indications of what the pressure might be in Mauritius, some people might have better sources than we do even, so do let us know if you know and send us a message here. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. We're here for another half hour and then we'll probably have many more video updates on the way this evening. But the storm is making its closest approach to Mauritius right now. We always want to be live when that happens, and here we are. There it is once again, that satellite imagery. Let's see if there's an updated image or two here. I can't tell if that was an updated image or not, but there it is. And let's go back to some rapid imagery from the Indian satellite, which has been showing it at quite decent resolution as well. You have two satellites in this area, the Meteosat and INSAT. What you're looking at the moment is Meteosat, and now we'll look at INSAT imagery. There it is. You saw that earlier as well. I think this one is a little bit more up to date as well. Of course, on the Meteosat, it depends on which source you use for how recent the imagery is. But this is INSAT right now, and hopefully it will start playing the animation loop in a minute. It's loading 50 images for us right now. Oh, that's because it's loading the wrong imagery. Never mind. It's loading 21 images for us right now of visible imagery throughout the course of today. There it was this morning and throughout the rest of the day, and that's where we're up to now. The progression of Cyclone Freddy, it's been pretty straightforward there, moving in almost a straight line. And it does feel as though this could have been a lot worse for the Masserine Islands. And as you look at this imagery, in fact, you'll see it there on that last image. Just go back to that last image. Up too far.
Yeah, the closest I could find on the observation side is 127 knot max wind on FIMP, a small station close to it. 27 knots sustained winds and max gusts of 31 knots.
But look closely here. You can see this little tuft of cloud there. That's causing all of that rainfall that's occurred in Mauritius in the last hour or so with some of that thunder. So this significant area here for Mauritius. But after that, look at that. It looks like you're going to be in the clear after that has passed through. So it does look like that we're near the tail end of the storm for Mauritius, and it has ended up being in a little bit of a dry spot actually, with the rest of that cloud band being much further towards the south. Indeed, La Réunion now getting quite a bit of that outer band. Whether it's got a lot of rain in there or not, I'm not sure, but certainly cloud cover. And how the main bulk of the storm, that circular area, has avoided Mauritius, so that is clearly good news. But only just, not by very much. So it was always going to be a close call. Let's go back to another viewpoint, a more exposed viewpoint near Grand Bay. Here's the current view, quite a blurry view actually. But even at this location, it's looking a little bit calmer than what it was earlier. It's still quite blustery there and quite severe, but not as bad as it was earlier in my view. And we're not seeing that much capping on the water there, which suggests to me that winds aren't extremely strong. And this is one of the areas now that is probably getting the strongest winds. Probably lower gale force at most. Now, of course, elevated locations on Mauritius might be getting some stronger winds there, particularly gusts. But here at this location, to me, it's not looking that bad compared to what it could have been. I believe we're also joined by Christian now. A surprise appearance there. Hello, Christian, you're on the air.
Hello.
Now, you've been a little bit out of action recently, unfortunately, but what do you make of what you've been seeing on Cyclone Freddy today and during its whole life?
Well, I mean, this is a really long tracking storm. Obviously, as people know, it started out near Indonesia and now here it is approaching Madagascar. So it's had quite a long journey. And as recent, I'm not sure what the intensity of it is now.
But, about 150.
150, so category 4. Okay. I mean, it's been category 4 most of its life. Rather surprisingly, it started out quite weak, and then as it progressed, it it got stronger. Really, is all I can say. We first called it Category 5 a few days ago. I think the JTWC have been going a bit more aggressive than us. But obviously now it's tailed off a little bit, so it could have been worse for these island nations.
Certainly could.
What was that? And well, I don't know if that was came across on stream, but
It did.
that's just a thing. And yeah, again, that's all I have to say on this at the moment. Unfortunately, I'm still out of action. And I've not done as much as I would have liked on this system, especially from what it's doing right now. But we can only really wait and see.
All right, in a minute, I'm going to try and get to our Facebook page, because we are on there as well. I know one or two people have sent us stuff over there, so I'll try and get that on our stream in just a moment. People wondering where to send things? Facebook and Twitter are probably your best bet. If you do a public post on Twitter, we'll be able to just get it up on the public page as well, so we can do that too. Let's see if we've got some more comments right now. Strong winds in Vacoas right now. And people are talking, saying that the pressure in Mauritius is probably between 1002 and 1008 apparently. That's quite high. That is quite high. Antish says thunderstorm at Mahiborg and the south coast there. And in the centre of the island, they're saying blue sky is coming back right now. That is possibly occurring, yeah. A comment there, is Mauritius out of danger? I would say there is no guarantee of that until about 6 p.m. But in general, it does look like most of the area is going to be in the clear pretty soon, if you ask me. Right, I'm just going to try and get to Force 13 on Facebook and the messages here.
Nathan, if you can check the live discussion, there's a new update from Meteo Madagascar.
There is. Let's go there first. Tell us about this SOAM if you can. What are we seeing on this update?
Unfortunately, I can't read French, so...
Oh, it's in French. Okay. Well, I can sort of try and translate that a little bit. It's hard to do it whilst we're live. This is as of 10 a.m. and shows the forecast, as you can see, and the areas that they've put in the watches and warnings. So, I think the yellow zone is a threat message or something like that, which I'm not really sure what that means in English, so I just put that down as a cyclone warning, which is probably what it ought to be. And you can see all of those zones that are within that yellow area. In the green area, that's a watch zone. So you can see all the areas that are now affected by watches and warnings in Madagascar. It hasn't really changed very much there, and I'm pretty sure they're using the Meteo France's track.
I think there has been some changes. Like
They've extended it inland.
Yeah, the yellow zone has been extended inland.
Yeah, they have, and that was pretty expected. But I'm pretty sure they're using the Meteo France track there as well.
Yeah, that is true actually. Yeah, this pretty much follows Meteo France's track, even down to the technical glitch of overland depression being outside of the land.
No, I'm pretty sure they use that icon for any depression.
Then it's a little weird that they call it an overland depression then.
Where does it say that?
I believe it's there in the main cone. It was written as an overland depression, I think.
Huh. It never has been when I've been tracking. They've always done a yellow circle.
Interesting. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah. Well, that's the latest there in Madagascar right now, and of course we'll be covering that more intently in the coming days. Just trying to load an image here. Is that? Oh, that's on my external audio. Something happened before we started today where some of the audio is coming out of the screen and some of the audio is coming through my headphones. So I don't know how this will play, but you'll hear some of it in the background of my microphone. I don't know. And some of me here, if that makes any sense. I don't know. Let's try and get this here. So this was a message that Werner sent through here of waves crashing and moving in there. You can quite clearly see that. A lot of surge. This was from much earlier on. That was just after we started streaming. So you can see that there. And just taking a look at this next one. I think they want us to show this as well in the northwest of Mauritius from Elton. Thanks for sending this in. Another view here on clouds in the distance. That's probably those thunderstorms that we were talking about. And you can hear the wind there as well. Certainly very blustery at that location too. So still people out there as well. So that's a few views in Mauritius sent in by some of our viewers there right now. Thanks for that. And we still keep looking at this satellite imagery as well. Some people saying that the beach is gone. Ella says that the beach is gone where they are. What do you mean by that? That it's been eroded away, or that it's underwater, or probably the former?
I probably think it's probably surge.
Yeah. Michael Duo says, would the name Freddy be retired after it dissipates?
Well, considering that very long-lived storms or record-breaking storms have been retired in the past, it really depends on whether Madagascar requests the Bureau of Meteorology to retire the storm.
Wow. They are usually quite trigger happy with doing that as well.
Yeah, and I suspect it might be retired anyway because of its extreme, because of the extreme records it has set already.
Yeah, even just for the like they have done that before, haven't they?
Yeah, Patricia got retired just for its extreme intensity. Aoki damaged Wake Island badly, but was also retired for its extreme record-setting ace as well.
Yeah. Just looking for a message that someone sent. Can't find it here. I'm trying to get hold of this Twitter one that someone sent in. I've got it on my other screen, but I'm going to try and get it to this screen. Oh, actually, I'll be there in a minute. But you're watching Force 13 Live. We're here for another 15 minutes, and then we will have... then we'll be away for a while, but we'll have more video updates. Okay, yeah, someone's... Denny sent us this on Twitter. Nope, not that. That's the Madagascar map. Sent us this. Here's the view of this beach being gone. Well, I can see what you mean. It's been trashed, that's for sure. So that's one view there. I'm not sure exactly where that is, but clearly an area that has been seriously impacted by the waves and probably some strong winds as well. So significant impact there, and another view. There we are, some of the waves crashing over that area, really getting thrown up. Thank you very much for sending that in, Denny. and you can also send in your own pictures and video through our Facebook or Twitter handles. But we are here for only a few more minutes. But the storm right now, if you've just joined us, still making its closest pass to Mauritius right now. It's probably just about done that.
We got one question.
Hmm?
It's an interesting question. It says, why does Freddy not have a double-barreled name, such as Freddy Enala, as it entered the Southwest Indian Ocean? It's an interesting question.
Well, they don't do that anymore, do they? They've
They
stopped
stopped
doing
this.
that
They
now.
stopped the practice. They stopped the practice. I believe they stopped the practice, and Otto was the first storm to not receive a double-barreled name.
When was that?
Otto, 2016, the Atlantic storm that crossed over to the Eastern Pacific.
Wait. No, they stopped doing that practice in the Southern Hemisphere long ago, didn't they?
It was still ongoing. I recall a recent storm, Adeline Juliet, back in 2005. So it was still on, well into the 2000s. And sometime in the early 2010s, the practice stopped.
Still over 10 years ago, though. It is pretty old news, but yeah, they don't do the double-barreled names anymore. I don't know whether people think they still should or not, though. I don't know.
I think the practice was stopped because it complicates storm statistics.
I don't know about that. It might complicate messaging, though, a little bit. But I don't know.
Maybe.
But
Who knows?
it only has one name. It is Freddy. Inala hasn't been used. That will still be the next name in the Southwest Indian Ocean, if any new storms form there. Soham, looking back with me at this radar imagery, anything else that you want to point out here with regards to storm structure? Maybe a little weakness on the eastern side of the inner eye?
Yeah, the inner eye will continue to collapse as the outer eye wall strengthens. It's natural for every eye wall replacement cycle.
So you're convinced that's definitely happening now, then?
Yeah, there's no such thing as a definite, so I'll just say a high probability that it's happening.
Okay then, let's see if we've got some more comments here. Quite a few actually, from all kinds of questions and comments here. Clement says, on that trajectory, Freddy is moving away from Mauritius and our brother island Reunion with no casualties. Well, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Certainly no landfall. Hurricane force winds are staying out to sea as well. So good news there. And check out that latest satellite imagery. That eye really falling apart on satellite.
Yeah, no, that's almost certainly an eye wall replacement cycle now.
Yeah.
Because no other case would make sense. Dry air is pretty much off the table. Shear is favorable, so that only and still under very warm sea surface temperatures. So that combined with the radar imagery that we see only leaves out eye wall replacement cycle as the only remaining candidate.
Maria wants to know what part of Mozambique will Cyclone Freddy pass through, and how fast, how strong will it be? That is still a grey area right now, because we're not sure. We've still got to get through Madagascar before we get a good idea about where and when and how strong the storm will be when it strikes Mozambique. Best indication right now is that it's probably going to be near hurricane force when it makes landfall, somewhere along central Mozambique. Latest models suggesting that it might be near Beira, although they are trending south, especially the European model. Let's see what else we have here.
Ken is asking how fast is Freddy moving right now?
I'm not actually sure its movement vector. Let me just get a little indication for you. An automated indication is probably about 16 knots, which is nearly 20 miles per hour, which in turn is, let's call it 30 kilometers per hour is movement right now.
Relatively fast moving.
Yeah. Is it safe to visit Mauritius tomorrow, and would the island be battered? Well, you saw that picture on the beach. That was definitely battered. The northern half will be worse than the southern half. I think the southern half of the island's probably gotten away quite lightly. The northern half, I imagine, will be quite windswept. But I don't think damages will be too severe.
Even if you do visit, I would not recommend swimming in the waters
Yeah.
for any time soon.
Well, yeah. Madagascar is facing the full brunt of Freddy now, says Clement. It will do eventually when it gets there, probably tomorrow night. Hemant says not good weather from the plane Willems, and the weather is not that mad. So not good and not bad, apparently. Did the cone for Freddy change, or is it still the same? I can't imagine it's changed that much. I mean, the later part of the cone's trended south a bit.
Apart from a slight southward trend, or any of the more outlandish shenanigans that the European model and some of the other models are showing are still well beyond the 5-day range. So it's outside of the scope of the cone.
Okay. When will it make landfall in Madagascar? So we're not sure exactly when yet, but it's probably going to be late tomorrow night now, the way it's going. And I'm sure I saw another comment there as well. I think that's gone somewhere. Looks like lots of rain inland and south. Oh, that's in Mozambique. Then back up from Maputo and right up the coast on the models. Probably, the way it's looking. Just looking for some more comments here. Angad says there was a cyclone in the 90s that did the same thing and at the end did a turnaround and came back to Mauritius. Is it possible in this case? I don't know that any cyclone did that. Hyacinth sort of
I'll have
did
to
that.
look into which cyclone did that in the 90s because no storm comes to mind.
No. But thanks very much for all of your comments there, and we saw quite a few people sending things in as well. Will it leave Mauritius by tomorrow? Certainly will. It will be gone by tonight, actually. And what's the weather forecast for Mauritius for tomorrow? I imagine it will probably be mostly clear. There might still be some residual cloud from the storm, but I think it's going to be fairly calm for you tomorrow in Mauritius.
Just keep in mind there's a large feeder band that is with the poleward outflow, so that can still provide some rain tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe, but with the speed the storm's going, it might already have moved through. Not sure. We'll see. And how big is Freddy's eye now compared to yesterday?
I think the question should be more how small is the eye now compared to yesterday.
Does it have an eye properly now?
It still does. It's just that it's getting obscured by the ongoing eye wall replacement cycle. And I believe radar had the eye being slightly larger. I don't recall the exact measurements, but the new outer eye
Right.
wall is slightly bigger.
Let's get an updated radar view here and we can take a look and compare the first and the last image together. So here we go. There's the first image from 10:51. And there's the last image at 3:41. It's smaller, so
Interesting. Could you show me the last frame again?
there's the first frame at
Yeah.
10:51.
Yeah,
And now the
looks like
current.
it seems the outer eye wall is contracting now.
And it looks like it's losing symmetry as well. It's a bit oval shaped north to south there.
Yeah, as the outer eye wall contracts, it'll cut off the moisture supply for the inner core.
And I
So
think
it'll
the
essentially
eastern inner eye wall falling away there.
yeah, it will continue to erode throughout the night or morning, depending on what time zone it is.
We will be finishing up in just a moment, but first there's a few more things that people have sent to us, and we appreciate that. It feels like a collaboration, like we're working together. Let me just find that again. And I've pressed the wrong button. And now I've pressed the right button. Okay, yeah, so Denny sent in another one here. Just a minute. Here we go, another view here. I don't know if we saw this one actually. But if you didn't see it, then there it is again. A view from not very long ago. Somewhere in Mauritius, I'm not sure where. They didn't mention that. But clearly somewhere along the northern half of the island probably. Facing the storm. Yeah. So that's what we have been seeing across the coastline throughout the course of today. Cyclone Freddy, 150 miles per hour sustained winds still at this time.
Likely going to be a little weaker when we do the 12Z fix, but it's not going to be that much weaker though.
Alright. Remains extremely dangerous, particularly towards Madagascar. As we look ahead now. Rainfall doesn't look like it's been a significant issue for Mauritius, as we were expecting. But winds are still very much there right now as well. Before we finish up, let's take a look back at some of those webcams whilst we can. I'm just going to get them set up here. Let's see. Just taking a look to see which webcams look interesting. Well, actually, here's a view on the western side. Just trying to get this up. Flick on Flack right now, looking out towards the west, and you can see all of that cloud and the big dark curtain that surrounds the storm in the distance. The main bulk of the storm will be off to the right hand side from this webcam. But there's the view. It's actually quite calm there. And back to the other webcam that we're looking at Point de Flac, which looks like this. And finally, back to probably where the worst conditions are, or near it right now. Here at Point aux Canonnières, which is not far from Grand Bay, in a more exposed location on the northwestern tip of Mauritius. And that's how we'll finish up here looking at this. This was Force 13's live coverage of Cyclone Freddy's closest pass to Mauritius. We'll have loads more video updates and everything you need to know on the Force 13 channel on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and you'll get notified of new updates on there. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter as well. Search Force 13 and you'll find us there. And you can also join us on our Discord server, live chat there at discord.gg/force13, or you can just search it there and you'll find our server and chat to over 3,000 weather watchers from around the world. I'm sure there's plenty already there from Mauritius who are probably chatting right now. But from here at Force 13 HQ, that's it from our coverage for the time being. Thanks for joining us. We hope we've done a decent service for you, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks to Soham and Declan and Farhan for being with us during our live stream today. I'm sure we'll meet again later. And until next time, which probably isn't very long, I imagine we'll be doing live streams for Madagascar and Mozambique later on down the line. But for the time being at least, that's it from us. We'll see you again soon. Good evening.